How's my rolling.net?
Can you, start by giving an introduction, a little bit of background about yourself?
Coming out of St. Louis. I've been doing comedy since I was 18. I'm 27 now. I've just now been able to do BT Comic View. I just auditioned for Comedy Central. That looks really, really good. I'm signed right now with Def Jam, which is Laugh Mob, which basically is Speedback Management right now. Been just doing my thing, traveling nationwide right now.
Where would you say that your inspiration came from to get into comedy?
My inspiration came from basically, my mom, my family, I've always, my school, I've always been this funny guy, but I've never, I never really knew I was going to be a comic until, it happened. My uncle had, he was a promoter for the Hard Rock Cafe, and he booked a comedy show, and it was with B. Flat, Corey Holcomb, and some of the, majorest, guys that were on BT Comic View right when that hit at that time. And he let me get 2-3 minutes, man, and ever since that 2-3 minutes, I've never been off.
A lot of comedians, they base their material off of real-life experiences. Would you say that a lot of your material is the same? Is that reflected in your...
Definitely. I would say the realer, the better. The more real comedy, realistic, the more everyday life you can bring and put on that stage. I think that's probably the best thing that you could do as a comic. Made up stuff is cool. You know what I'm saying? You can come and hit him with the Roaches talked to me yesterday. You can always come do that. But I think what hits hard, what hits home is always everyday life type comedy.
Where are some of the places that you might draw from? Is it people around you or?
People. I have a great support group. I have both of my aunts, my mom, my family have been supportive. My friends, my lady. Everybody has been really, really supportive towards my dream. It's been about me.
Right.
And a lot of times, then it's not even been about them. And I'm like, dang, it's about you guys too.
Well, in any aspect of the entertainment industry, there's always hardships. There's always struggles. What are some of your experiences with that, and how did you handle disappointment?
Some of my struggles was, my major struggle was, basically when you start doing comedy, you're not getting paid as an up-and-coming comic. So you go, you can go anywhere from 2 to 5, 6 years without getting a dime almost in comedy. So, my mom and everybody, I never wanted to get a job. I never wanted to get anything. I just wanted to straight do comedy. So it was really hard for them to accept, you're doing all this, stuff and you're not getting paid and there's no money. So my mom put me out, I got put out the house. So I went homeless over comedy, and a story I would love to tell is the best story to ever say. I got homeless, okay? I had $150 in my pocket. This other comic, he owns a comedy club in St. Louis. He had booked me for the weekend, which was $400 he was going to give me for the weekend, which is good money, especially if you're homeless. And I took, and it was an audition in Minnesota for Def Jam with Bob Sumner. And, everybody told me, hey, dude, you ain't got no place to stay. I wouldn't go out there and spend that money. You're booked this weekend. And I went against all of that. I took my $150, got on the mega bus, and went out there, and I was signed a month later. So I think that was like one of my biggest overcome battles, to go against almost everybody, in my fam, the comics, everybody telling me the dude's not going to look at you. He's not going to sign you, all that type of stuff. And I was signed a month later. I think that was like my biggest, that was the biggest thing that ever happened to me in my comedy career, period. Point blank. I don't care if I get on 27 movies right now. The fact that I went and I did that when I was homeless, I think that killed it. That killed it for me. That was the biggest thing that ever could happen. Because I'm turned on ever since then. I've been able to. I'm doing interviews now. I'm doing. It's crazy.
That's definitely a pretty amazing story. What were some of the things that went through your mind, going over there, especially with all the comments from everybody else, telling you, oh, you can't do it? what went through your mind? Like, were you scared or
Well,
have confidence?
Yeah. Of course, I was scared. I was scared. I really thought I made a really bad decision at that time. I never knew Bob Sumner at that time. I didn't know what to expect. And what's so crazy is when the first time I met him, he already had a slogan basically for every Def Jam thing was basically like, hey, you can rip it. I slept on talent. I slept on a lot of guys. So even if I don't pick you, it's not the end of the world. That's the first thing he said to me. And I'm like, dude, this is not good. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
And I'm like, he doesn't know I'm homeless. I wanted to tell him, hey, dude, I took everything, man. You don't know what I did to meet you. And what just so happened was my talent outshined, and that definitely put me on the standpoint to where this guy had to say, I mean, I want to manage you. You know what I mean? And that took me through a loop because there was no way. And then nobody believed it when I came back home. You know what I mean? Nobody was like, nah, yeah, right. You're signed with this guy. Yeah, right. You got his number. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? And the thing was, I thought everybody got his number. So I thought the guy was bullcrapping me for a minute. You know what I mean? Because I thought after the audition, he gave you his number. I thought that how it went. But when I found out I was the only person that had his number, I was like, oh, I'm really with this guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a lot of scary thoughts. I really felt to a certain degree it was a bad decision, you know what I'm saying? But it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. And I think that's like the truest point of me ever jumping out on faith in my life,
right.
You know what I mean?
So do you think that for a lot of people that's what holds them back from success in that industry, that lack of faith, they're not really willing to take that big risk like you did?
Yeah, I think that is, holding a lot of people back. If you don't jump out on faith, and I say this to up-and-coming comics now who, the same guys that didn't believe me, that's all on me now and like, man, I wish I could do it with you, man, just tell me what to do now. Those type of guys, I look at them and I tell them the same thing, man. I said, dude, if you don't jump out on faith, man, if you don't, like, really believe in what you're doing, it's no reason to do it. If this is going to be your hobby, then this is the wrong career move.
Do you feel like comedy is becoming oversaturated?
No, I feel like this is coming oversaturated with not the real or the right guy. Like, we don't have any more of the Martin Lawrences anymore. No more the Steve, the Chris Tuckers, those one guys that stand out, that you're like, oh, my God. You know what I mean? Now we have the Kevin Harts and Mike Epps. But, I mean, Mike Epps been around here for, 10, 12 years now, you know what I mean? So we know Mike Epps. We know who he is. We know his character. We kind of know what to expect from him. Just the new guys coming out, which myself and a lot of the other guys that are coming out, I think we just haven't seen that new Eddie Murphy. And it's just, I think it's getting to a standpoint to where that's why people aren't watching as much comedy as they used to. You know what I mean? Because 4 years ago, comedy was at an all-time high. You know what I mean? You had so many different comics that were coming out. I mean, Martin was still on tour at that time. It was still a lot of people that were, you were still able to see good comics.
Yeah.
And it was a lot harder for you to get in.